and in a very special way. Got a little echo here. And that special way is because not only we're just talking about natural remedies as they are, but in the context of what? In the context of evangelism. Because what we want to do is meet people where they are, right? Identify with their needs. And one of the major needs that people have is in terms of health. Every house you go to in Bermuda, somebody has a what? A problem. Or what we define as a problem. Is that not so? But in reality, what we're looking at is what? Signs and symptoms relating to what? A violation of the what? The laws of health. All right. Now, we are going to have the quiz, and then we're going to have that just a little later. Okay, so we'll pull that in. Let's get into our presentation today. Now, we're looking at two presentations today, and this is Restoring Rest, Temperate Living, and Trust in Divine Power. Now, believe it or not, all that we've talked about up to today, if you're eating as you should be doing, you're exercising, you're getting the sunlight, the fresh air, all of that, your sleep should be enhanced. Right? It's sort of a natural outgrowth of a number of the other things, but we're going to take a look at this whole question of sleep, restoring sleep. Now, what are the consequences of poor sleep? You see that there? There are a whole lot of issues that people can have as a result of that. Traffic accidents, hypertension, diabetes. Diabetes? People who do not get enough sleep are more likely to be diabetic? Wow. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just ask for your guidance as we go through this presentation today. Bless us all. May we have that rest that comes from thee. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So, of course, struggles, professional performance, memory impairment, just about everything you can think of that is associated with some sort of illness can be linked to inadequate sleep. So while we're looking around for some pill or some solution, the question we should ask is here, how much sleep you getting? How much sleep are you getting? Really, really, right? Because that can impact on what? A ton of problems. So instead of running off or looking for herbs or looking for pills, let's start with the basic, right? How much sleep are you what? Getting, all right? Because that's a key factor that's associated with a lot of issues that people may have. All right, consequence, hunger. You know that people who don't get enough sleep tend to have more cravings? Right, so you're craving for, give me sugar, give me fat, give me what? Give me now, right? The sleepy brain is a craving brain. So one of the factors, this lack of sleep, is driving some of the poor eating habits that people have. All right, so your ability to control cravings is influenced by your sleep habits. Pain, people who do not sleep have more pain. Fibromyalgia, worsening arthritis, all pain conditions are worsened. So we look at these things and we're saying, man, where did this come from? You know, everybody's got this fibromyalgia or whatever it is, but the reality is maybe inactivity or not enough sleep is one of the factors that's driving it. So instead of looking for some miracle cure, right, trying to figure out what's the real problem, let's go to what the real problem really is, and that just may be what? Not enough sleep. That's one of those key factors. Unable to prioritize, clumsiness, overconfidence, working memory problem, unable to deal with complicated new problems, unable to judge impairment and risk-taking behavior. So your lack of sleep affects your awareness. So your awareness is gone, right? You got all sorts of health-related issues. And instead of complicating the issues, let's go back to the what? The basics, right? Sleep, exercise, all those things that we tend to think, well, you know, maybe that's a good thing, but if you really got a problem, you need to do something what? Something else. When in reality, all we may need to do is what? Rest. And the problems go away. In fact, do we have someone with a mic that we can take questions? I don't see. Okay, and I would. Question is, what if you have too much sleep? Well, there are problems both ways. If you get too much sleep, that could be an issue, and we're going to take a look at that also. Too much is bad, and not enough is bad. But right in the middle, that's where we want to be. All right, what are the consequences? And we talked about some of them, right? Everywhere from heart disease to migraines to anxiety to depression to arthritis to menstrual issues to diabetes. You got it. Everything we're concerned about, getting back to the basics, that not enough sleep could be a key factor in why people are having those issues. Now, this is looking at diabetes. Now, let me try to break this down for you. If you look at this here, you see this curve going up, right? On this side. In the middle is what? Between 7, this is 8 hours of sleep. Are you following me? Now, this is risk of diabetes, right? So as this line goes up, your risk increase. You follow me? So you're getting less than 7 hours of sleep, and what's happening to your risk of diabetes is increasing. You're getting more like 9 hours or more, and what is happening? So on both sides, right, people are having problems with blood sugar control if they're not getting on average around about 8 hours of sleep a night. Are you following me? Okay, so this is an important thing. Now, refreshing, restoring sleep happens when you go to bed in harmony with your sleep-wake cycle. Now we have, and what governs your sleep-wake cycle? Well, or your circadian rhythm is determined by day and what? Day and night, involving the release of hormones that promote deep sleep. So light or lack of light influences everything to do with what? Sleep. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. So how do we influence those hormones so that they work for us, so that we get the sleep we need and avoid situations where you're not getting enough sleep? Now, if you take a look at the chart, you can see that during different times of the day, right, there are different factors. Let me give you an example of one. 6:45 a.m. is the sharpest blood pressure rise. That's on average. So 6:45 a.m., you may get up and take your blood pressure and it may be higher, right? And you may be thinking, what? Something's really wrong, but that may be the peak time in the morning where your blood pressure is at its highest. Okay, so be careful of defining yourself as this is not right. You know, I rested all night and my blood pressure is higher at 6:45 a.m., but that's the time where it's at its sharpest. Now, the highest blood pressure is 6:30 p.m. All right. Let's see. Fastest reaction time is 3:30. Best coordination is 2:30 in the afternoon. So it's looking at over a 24-hour cycle. There are periods where we are more alert than others. In fact, there are periods when chemo drugs, and just thought came to my mind, there are times in the day, if you gave somebody a chemo drug, it will work the best and they'd have less problems, less symptoms. If you have that right time, if the right time you take something, it actually works better for you. Now, we don't tend to follow that, you know, if someone is, you know, you're getting a drug or what have you, you know, just take it. You follow what I'm saying? But there is a best time and a worst time. So for blood pressure, for sleep, for concentration, all of those things are influenced by our 24-hour cycles. the rise and falls of hormones and all of that. And when that cycle is all out of control, we get real, we get cranky, we have a lot of issues because our hormones and everything are out of balance. So how do we reset that? By the night-day cycles, okay? So we can do that. So let's take a look at that. Now, we have several sleep cycles, and circadian rhythms goes from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., all right? 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and it starts over again, right? Sort of gives you a good idea of when you should be gearing down to go to sleep, right? Right? 9, 10 o'clock, you follow what I'm saying? And waking up, now back in the day, when did we go to bed? We went to bed with the roosters and all the other things, right? When the lights went off, everybody went to what? And when the lights came up in the morning, everybody what? You woke up, right? Believe it or not, all this sleeping issues started when electricity came on the scene. Before there was electricity, everybody was sleeping perfectly well. But all this electricity that's keeping us up, what is it doing to our circadian rhythms? It's throwing it off, right? Because you still got this light. And how does the body, address this whole factor? You have light, it affects the hormones and everything, all right? And we're going to get into that, right? Now, of course, sleep changes, from 5 to 10-year-olds need about 10 to 11, and different age groups need different sleep, but the adults need between 7 and 9 hours, okay? Less than 7 is not good, right? More than 9 is definitely probably not a good. Something may be going on. All right, so persons who sleep less than 6, more than 9, live shorter than those who sleep between 7 and 8 hours of sleep, okay? So that's just a fact of life. You're not getting that sleep. And some people will say, well, I don't need it, right? Actually, they probably need more than they think they need. All right, so what happens while you're asleep? Learning takes place while you're sleeping. Now, does that make sense? Does that seem to make sense? No, it doesn't, right? You're learning when you're alive and you're active. But what's happening is reorganizing, resorting. Everything happens when we're sleeping. Reviewing, sorting, organizing, prioritizing, problem solving, memorizing. Your experiences of the day happen when you sleep. You got a secretary, right? You got someone who organizes, right? All the activities, what you got to do, when you got to do it, and all of that, right? Well, your brain organizes from everything you are exposed to during the day, right? So the next day, you're what? You're all together. It's resorting, it's reorganizing, it's putting things, it's associating what you just learned with what you already have, right? It's creating this amazing brain that God has given us, right? Has this ability to do all these amazing things. So it's no wonder when we don't get enough sleep, right? Our memory goes, right? And a whole lot of other things going, because the sorting, the reorganization, all of that's not taking place because we are not what? So sleeping is an active part of living. And for us, we need it. It's not a non-essential. And some people have this idea, sleeping is just, I need to be constantly working. I've got a lot to do. So if I get less sleep, I'll get more work done, right? Is that true? No. If you get the right sleep, you would actually get more work done. And in fact, you wouldn't have to, for experience, when I was in college, sometimes you do these all-nighters, right? And you're cramming, and you know what happens at the end of it? Man, I did this, and I've come out blank. You hear me? Blank. I'm studying, cramming all night, and then I look at my exam, and nothing comes up, right? Why? I haven't gotten the sleep, the reorganization, and all of that sorting. So if I would have went to sleep early and got up, right, then I would have needed less time to really, pull it all together, because my brain is doing that work while it's sleeping. So that's important. Learning continues to improve after several nights. Now, of course, Adequate sleep restores, resets, repairs, anti-inflammatory, improves mood, heart health, brain health, memory, joy, energy. Everything works better when we what? Sleep. Restores. And we need that sleep. So there are several stages of sleep, and we're not going to go through a whole lot of detail in those, but stage 3, deep sleep, and rapid eye movement sleep are responsible, really important for recovery sleep. Okay, so those 2 stages, as you're going through the stages through the night, rapid eye movement sleep, as well as stage 3, deep sleep. Stage 4, deep sleep, is very similar to stage 3. So, sleep is important in learning, memory, and adaptation. Irritability, anxiety, mental disturbance follow REM deprivation. Depression, lethargy follow stage 4. So, if you're not getting that deep sleep, you're more likely to be what? Depressed and have depression, right? So the solution is not necessarily a pill. The solution is to get what? Deep sleep, right? Because if you don't have that, your irritability, your anxiety, your mental disturbance, and do you know a lot of the drugs that people take actually interfere with the sleep? Everywhere from alcohol to caffeine to nicotine, all of them impair your ability to sleep. And who would know that? The devil himself, right? Everything that he wants us to take on to destroys the image of God in his people, right? Your ability to sleep, your ability to have, you know, a peaceful, healthy mental outlook. So, here you go. This is looking at awake, rapid eye movement, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then it goes back up again, right? And it cycles back down and it cycles back up, right? So it's going between, it's cycling through what? All the stages, rapid eye movement all the way down 3 and 4. Now, the first 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, this is declarative memory, filtering data, just the facts, okay? So there's the filter. Then from 4 o'clock all the way up to waking up in the morning, this is making connection, creative problem solving. So the body is doing the physical reorganization, then the problem solving, and all of that is happening while we are what? Sleeping. Man, isn't that amazing? Sleeping is an important aspect of living. So when you're not getting this sleep, right? What do you think's happening, right? It's interfering with a lot of the things. And we know that people that work the graveyard shift, actually they have more health problems. Women have more breast cancer who are not sleeping during the night. They're up all night, right? Because they're working in a hospital situation. And it throws the body's rhythms all off, increase the likelihood of premature death and disease. So, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. All right, disruptors. Okay, I said this already. Beginning over 100 years ago when electricity was entered. Today we give ourselves one less sleep cycle. So where you're cycling through REM all the way down to 4 and back and up and down, we have one less because of our habits. All right, so your anxiety, tension, emotional arousal, disruptive environments, pain, discomfort, drugs, low blood sugar can all disrupt sleep habits. So there are a lot of things that can interfere with your sleep. So you got to ask yourself the question, you know, what's going on, right? Am I really anxious? Am I worrying? What are the potential factors, right? Pain, discomfort, of course. If you're drugs, certain drugs, a number of classes of drugs will actually interfere with your ability to sleep. One of the most vulnerable populations is our elder population, right? And a number of them are in rest homes, and I remember when I was young, you know, my grandmother was in one of those, and you would see the nurses coming around with these cards, right? And there would be a whole line of pills that they're, you know, dishing out to all these patients. And one of the factors is, a number of elderly people who have what, quote, dementia. The real issue is the medications that they're taking that are affecting their ability to remember. And if we took away some of those drugs, they'd actually have better memory. I think we're too over-medicated, and I really think it's because we're not focusing on the real issue, right? It's not symptoms which we call disease that we need to address. It's the lifestyle factors. They need to be walking. They need to be having largely whole plant foods. They need, you follow what I'm saying? All of the 8 natural remedies that we're talking about. And this is probably the reason why many years ago when I went to this place called Dietary Pines, I saw such dramatic transformation in the lives of people after 21 days. You follow what I'm saying? They come looking depressed and like they've given up on life, hoping that, the water is stirred. You remember that pool where everybody was coming around, waiting for the water, and the first person that got in, supposedly was healed. And Jesus came, and Jesus wanted to heal everybody. But the reason he didn't is because it would create what? It would, create problems for him, that the authorities. But this one person, he determined that he would what? He would heal him, right? And so, and you see those revelations, I'm telling you. I would be like have an introductory sort of a talk. Everybody's sitting around, this person has cancer, this person has, MS, this person, you follow what I'm saying? People with real serious issues. And then, 3 weeks later, man, they are bubbling, they're walking miles, they feel like they have, got a new lease on life. Yet they have been under the care of a physician for years. Bought a bag full of pills and feeling horrible. In 3 weeks, half the pills are gone and they have a new lease on life. Why is that? Because they are applying what? The principles, the underlying laws of health. And believe you me, most people, what you really need to do is look at those pieces. How much exercise you're getting, how much sleep you're getting. These are the basics. And when we deal with the basics, most things just disappear because in reality, the problem is what? The problem is the lifestyle, not what we're looking at. Okay, whole lot of things. So meds, caffeine, alcohol, room environment can affect your abilities to sleep. If your room environment is it's lots of light, right? Lots of noise, you're not gonna get sleep. You follow what I'm saying? We'll talk about that. Of course, lots of diseases can interrupt our ability to sleep. So alcohol, every serving impacts sleep for 2 hours. All right, so there's nothing good about alcohol. All right, so the first hour sedates, the second hour it increases arousal and withdrawal. So it's not a good thing. A lot of people use alcohol to try to help them to sleep. It's nothing good about it whatsoever. It may take up to 7 hours to metabolize caffeine by 50%. So you have caffeine in the morning, and a lot of people do that, right? People, people come to me and they start the day with a caffeine, right? And how many hours? 7 hours. So you still got the effect of half of the caffeine in your system 7 hours later, right? So how is that going to impact on your sleep? Yeah, tremendously. It's going to impact. And so it's not something we need at all, right? All right, caffeine blocks brain chemicals that induce deep sleep. So it blocks melatonin production, okay? So caffeine is not a good thing. All right, nicotine, the same idea. It disrupts natural circadian rhythms. Your 24-hour rise and fall cycles is affected by nicotine. Greater likelihood you wake up during the night, right? You have trouble falling asleep and then you wake up during the night. All of this will link to what? what people are taking in. So what drugs they're on, you know, all of this is factored. Of course, if you're on a diet high in refined products, it's going to affect your sleep. Fewer portions of vegetables. So people who eat more vegetables have better sleep than those that eat less. So I'm not sleeping, how much vegetables am I eating? Does that make, you see where I'm coming here? These are important things. Irregular meal patterns interrupt sleep. So if you, let's say you wake up at a certain time, around 7 o'clock or what have you, you get out, you do a nice walk, and then you're exposed to the sunlight, and you have your breakfast at 8 o'clock. I'm just saying this, right? And every morning you have your breakfast at 8 o'clock. You know what that does? That resets your circadian rhythm. So light affects it, regularity affects it. So your cycles come in order when you are what? Regular. All right? Now the best source of regularity means 7 days a week. You know, some of us, we get up regular during the week, and on the weekend we sleep in for what? 8 o'clock? No, 10 o'clock? Midday, right? This is not good for optimal living. Your body works better when we're consistent, 7 days a week. All right? And what is the reason why we tend to stay in on the weekend? Because during the week, what have we been doing? We've been intemperate during the week, right? And then we're hoping that somehow we'll make up for it by just sleeping the weekend away. No, doesn't work that way. We've got to re-evaluate how we're spending our time. And if we followed the circadian rhythms as they should, closer to that, we would actually accomplish more with less effort during the week, right? Then there's either I'm going to stay up what? Stay up late to catch up, right? So I'm 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you follow me? By the weekend, man, I'm going to sleep in, right? But this is not a good practice. All right, so let's go. So there are treatment options, and we're going to go through a few of them. We're not going to talk about over-concentrated drugs or prescription hypnotics, right? We're just going to talk about diet, herbal, and cognitive behavioral therapy. We're going to talk about this, and then we'll finish our sleep, and then we'll go on to our next area. Okay, now, you see this picture on the left. You see how that's going, right? Now, what's critical about this? This is melatonin production. You see where that red line strikes going up? That's around about 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. Are you with me? It shoots way up and then it comes right down. And over to the right, that's like 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 or 7. Now you see a blue line, right? You see that line? Do you see a spike? Do you see a spike in the blue line? A real... No, right? Now, you know the difference? The blue line is artificial light. People are exposed to just lights inside of a billion all day. That's how the melatonin levels peak at night. Those that are exposed to natural light from the sun, you see the peak in melatonin production there? So getting out in the sunlight in the best time, first thing in the morning, get exposed to sunlight. Get that light into your eyes. And what does that do? That resets your circadian rhythm. So first 40 minutes, get exposure to sunlight. As soon as that light comes up in the morning, especially if you have problems falling asleep. We talked about the blue light period. Yes? Just before the sun rises, you know, early in the morning, right? Then watch that sunrise. You follow what I mean? Get that light, and then the body what? Resets. Gets you ready for what? A new day, and your melatonin production at night will be what? Much higher because of that exposure to the natural light. All right, so from 9 p.m., the body starts increasing blood levels of melatonin, natural sunlight versus artificial, you see melatonin production. So if you want to get your melatonin production up, you need to get exposed to what? Natural light. So if you work in a facility where you don't even have natural light. All you got is what? Lights inside. You're there all day, right? And then you go home, right? And go back inside where you have more unnatural light. What do you expect to happen? Right? Year after years of that, you know, it's affecting your body's ability to really function effectively. So, melatonin regulates what? Appetite, sleep, and moods. So, your appetite, your sleep, and your moods. And so, am I, you know, moody? You're not mood, you know? You're not getting that what? Melatonin surge, right? Okay. It's a powerful antioxidant, anti-cancer, and anti-COVID-19. So, melatonin is a fantastic, and the body makes it, but actually there are foods that have it, and we're going to talk about a few of those. All right, so melatonin is great. This is just another picture looking at that. 2 p.m., darkness, 2 a.m., etc. Okay. All right, its production is decreased by what? Alcohol, caffeine, stress, tobacco, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These are drugs that are given with people who have pain, right? So your pain medications, right? Lowering your what? Melatonin production. In addition to the fact that the pain is making it harder for you to sleep, the pain medication is also decreasing your melatonin production. All right, beta and calcium channel blockers, and they're used for blood pressure, right? So people who are on blood pressure medication who can't sleep, they're getting their lower supply of what? Melatonin production. Anti-anxiety drugs and sleep aids. So the very thing you're taking for sleep is decreasing melatonin production, which gives you deep sleep. That's why it's important that we address things naturally as far as possible, because some of the same things they're giving us to help us are actually counterproductive. All right, so we see that depression drugs, bright artificial evening light and artificial light throughout the day. So you have a lot of light at night, then you don't produce melatonin. Melatonin is produced in darkness. So if you had the television on, you've got all the lights blazing, and you're trying to help that to get you to go to sleep, you're not going to get that restful sleep. Your melatonin levels are not going to get that high. And so we need to what? Turn off. It needs to be dark. Dark, cool. We sleep when we're cooler. The temperature is cooler, that's when we sleep. The temperature goes down when we're sleeping at night. So you don't want to have a lot of exercise just before you go to bed, because that's going to what? Ram up your temperature and all that. So you want to have that early in the day, so the room could be cooler, you could be wrapped up in a blanket, you know, but the air, you know, cooler, you know, that air coming in, dark, quiet, that's melatonin production. That's when it happens. All right. Okay, so how do we produce it? Number one, is a gland in the brain called the pineal gland. It draws tryptophan from the blood. Now, where do we get tryptophan? Now, these are some of the best sources of tryptophan. You've got black-eyed peas, black walnuts, almonds, sesame seeds, roasted pumpkin seeds, and tofu are all top source of tryptophan. Now, there are animal products that have tryptophan, but they have other proteins or amino acids that interfere with the body's ability to absorb these high levels of tryptophan. And so the best sources are what? Are plant foods, okay? Not animal products. You don't get that tryptophan surge increase by consuming animal-based products. You do by consuming the plant-based. So when you think of it, I'm not able to sleep, so let's make sure I'm eating more foods that are what? Have higher levels of tryptophan, right? Are you with me? So pumpkin seeds are way up top there, right? And you know, you can have pumpkin seeds with raisins or other things, or mix, You follow me? You can add it to your cereal. You can add a handful here or there. So you're going to produce more tryptophan. All right. Now, tryptophan is converted into what? Serotonin. Serotonin, which is dependent upon natural light. Are you with me? So, now, serotonin makes you feel good. You know that? It's a good, good thing, right? So, natural light, so you want to get some natural light. Number 3, serotonin is converted into what? Melatonin. So you got tryptophan, serotonin, then melatonin. Now, there are foods that have melatonin in them, right? Barley, oats, corn. I wrote oats twice. Anyway, I don't like the way that the graphic came out on mine, but you should see yours. Hopefully you see it clear. Did I give you that? Melatonin? Darn it. At the bottom here is pistachios. Pistachios and wheat and oats and barley, almonds, tomatoes, tart cherries, peppers, strawberries, walnuts, grapes, etc. But the number one source is pistachios. These are the top 1, 2, 3. Well, so yes, and one of our members who's actually here today mentioned that she was taking a handful of pistachios and her sleep has improved significantly as a result of just doing that what? One thing, one handful of pistachios. Yes?
I purchased some pistachios and I read the ingredients and it had some eggs and stuff cooked, So I'm just wondering.
You can get plain pistachios.
Yeah.
Eggs in pistachios?
Yeah.
Mercy. How was that? You got the shell, right? And most of them are they? They may have. Most of them have. What I've seen, they have soul, right?
Yeah. Well,
so it's the nut and the soul. You just crack it open, but just make sure it does what you get doesn't have all those additives to it. Okay, but pistachios is the highest known source of melatonin. Okay, and it'll boost your melatonin production if you just consume a handful of pistachios. So anybody who's having problems sleeping, go to those pistachios. And the pumpkin seeds will give you the tryptophan. So you've got both. Now, one thing about pumpkin seeds, I'll say that, and that's as important, people who have anxiety disorders, pumpkin seeds calms you down. Isn't that amazing? So pumpkin seeds will calm you down, the melatonin will put you to sleep. Isn't God good? Everything is in nature that He has given us. And He has given us in specific foods some properties that are not in others, right? And we can take advantage of them, right? And naturally help our sleep habits and anxiety disorders and things like that. And of course, you can even add good old flaxseed if you have depression, right? So, depression and anxiety, you've got 3, right? You've got flaxseed, you've got pumpkin seeds, and you've got pistachios. All 3 together will calm you, help you sleep, right? And help you deal with the stresses of life. If indeed there is some imbalance, that helps to bring about what? Balance. High levels of omega-3s may help with bipolar disorders where there's extreme elevation to depression. You're going from one to the other, and to help balance that out, the high intakes, I would think of all of these things, especially good old flaxseed. I mean, like a therapeutic dose, close to a quarter cup worth of flaxseed can work miracles. And then all of these, the melatonin and all of these things. So I would push the melatonin, the pistachio levels up, you know, a handful, probably wouldn't go more than 2 handfuls, right? But that's gonna push your melatonin production way up, yes. Okay.
Hi, I was just going to suggest for those who might have an issue eating that much pistachios, you can take the pistachios and pumpkin seeds and grind them up in your food processor and add figs or dates and also oats and make balls. And you can just snack on those balls, which would be an easy way to get it into your system.
Sure, that's sure. That's being that you say that, let me share with you a recipe to make a bowls. So it's 1 part nuts or seeds, equal parts dates, right? This is just a simple. So let's say it's a half a cup of dates. It's a half a cup of pumpkin seeds, right? And then it's a half a cup of, let's say it's coconut, right? And you add just enough liquid and you put it in a food processor, right? And that, right? And then you can roll it into little balls, and then you have some more coconut, right? You roll it in the coconut. Then you put it in the fridge, right? It will solidify. Now it's this nice, chewy, delicious, but mind-altering, right? In a good way, right? And now dates will help if you are pregnant and you want to have a healthy baby, and you don't want to have as much pain in delivery. Dates will help that whole process. You have less bleeding after after birth and all of that. Amazing, just dates. Anyway, we need to move on. Yes?
Have you got to be careful the amount that you eat within the day itself? Because you know you can nibble on these things.
Sure,
So
and what we talked about it. It's best to have it with your meals, right? Okay? Frequent snacking could interfere with your sleep, irregular eating. So
Right.
let's make it regular.
What kind of dates would you recommend?
Well, I mean, I'll just regular dates. Now, the bigger, sweeter ones, there are ones that are sweeter and bigger, and maybe they may cost more than the smaller ones. So any dates will do. Okay, so it's equal dates, equal nuts or seeds, right? You can add coconut to it and gives it a nice texture. All right. Okay, let's move on. All right. So calcium-rich foods. Yes.
Yes, to the discussion on the amount of nuts, just in addition to what was said about being careful about having too much, please, we need to remember as well that for those people who have like nut allergies or whatever, and are trying to have a little bit or none, whenever you grind it, just a little disclaimer, if you grind anything, you increase the body's ability to absorb. So it's better to just eat the thing whole, so you eat less rather than grinding. Once you grind and start nibbling, as Mr. Goldburn said, then you're eating more. So let's watch it. There's a lot on the internet. Just keep it simple, as close as possible to how God has created it, and the benefits will be great.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of other things. We're finishing up our section on rest. Calcium-rich foods are important for this whole process, and I just listed a few of them: dark greens, black beans, blackstrap molasses, hazelnut, green soybeans, figs, amaranth, the grain, and good sources of calcium, and then vitamin B6 You got your lentils, your walnuts, your bananas, sesame seeds, etc. But you should have that in your handout. So these are a number of things all together. We put it all together, right? We increase the likelihood that your body is going to what? You're going to get some sleep, all right? So those are important things. We didn't have much time. Sleep onset, insomnia, difficulty falling asleep. You see some causes there, alcohol, caffeine, valerian, passion flower, ashwagandha, some herbals that, two good ones when we think of sleep is valerian and passion flower. So those are very good research ones that have a calming, anti-anxiety, relaxing effect, all right? So that's that. Maintaining sleep, things that are related to that, valerian is also in there. So good old valerian is a nice calming, relaxing herb that you can get some benefit from. All right. Now, cognitive behavior therapy. It's all about, you know, your thoughts influence your behavior, and your behavior influences your thoughts. And so your behaviors and your emotions influence. So everything influences the other, right? And so one of the things you want to do, any activity that is not asleep, in bed will train the brain that it's okay not to what? Not to sleep in bed. So if you have a habit of doing what? Watching TV, right? Then your body is going to associate TV with waking up and keeping you awake. You follow me? So you don't want to have that association. You want to have the association with bed with what? With sleep. So remove everything that will create the opposite effect and create the environment that makes it easier for you to sleep. Nice, calming, relaxing music, right? A dark environment, right? So let's say an hour or so before you want to go to sleep, that's when you want to start gearing down, right? And everything is what? Preparing your mind to say, well, hey, we're asleep, we're going to sleep. You know, so this is what we need to do. So you turned off the TV and all of that. You follow what I'm saying? You got nice calming stuff. You may drink some herbal tea, valerian. You follow what I'm saying? All these relaxing things. You may have a diffuser where you have the essential oil going into the air and you got the music, right? And all of this is telling the body it's time to sleep. All right, so avoid blue light in the bedroom. So your TV, your cell phones, and all of those things, right? They're going to stop melatonin production and keep you avoiding deep sleep. Habits to practice that promote nighttime sleep, alertness, daytime activity, right? Pre-bedtime ritual, going through a process of gearing down, slowing down. So that the bedroom is quiet, dark, right? Cool, not cluttered, right? All of the...
Use that mic. Turn it on. Turn it on.
Okay, all right. Okay, daylight, nighttime darkness, no alcohol, caffeine, exercise, nutrition. We talked about nutrition and all those things. So sleep sets up daytime, right? And daytime sets up what? Sleep. So what you do in the day determines how you sleep at night, right? And both work, right? Reciprocal. They both have. The sleep of a labor man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. So the sleep of the labor man is what? Is sweet. So work hard during the day. Get that physical movement, and then your body will reward you by sleeping during the night. All right. Exercise promotes deep sleep. We're not going to go into all of that. The timing of exercise, early in the day versus later at night. Cognitive therapy, seeking emotional clearance during the daytime. So deal with your emotional stuff during the day, so you're not up night trying to figure out how to deal with this, that, and the other. Deal with that what? Daytime. So nighttime, you're disengaged, you know, you're casting all your cares upon him, right? Because he what? Cared for you, right? All right. Adequate number, we talked about that, right? Same every day of the week, right? Regular, 7 days a week, all that. Sleep is worth far more before than after midnight. 2 hours before is worth more than 4 hours after. So get that early. And all of these are amazing things. All right, 1 hour before bed, start ramping down. Turn off the computers, the phones, the TV, dim the lights, consider aromatherapy, warm shower, consistent wake up and go down to bedtime, honor mental and emotional health during the daytime, eat real food, right? And the foods we've talked about, right? Cast all your cares upon him because he what? Cares for you. All right? Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not in thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. He what? He shall. There's no might about it. He shall what? Direct thy path. If the brain is busy, it's a busy brain, seek, read poems, prayer, progressive muscular relaxation. You know, if you still awake after 20 minutes, then get out of bed, read under soft light, gentle stretching, relaxation techniques. Okay, if you're worrying about sleeping and you're not sleeping, you're constantly worrying while you're not sleeping, what, are you going to sleep? No. You know, so these are some things you can do. Okay, so this brings us to our next topic. Temperance is about balance, right? It's about balance, right? Are you balanced? Are you in balance? If you're not in balance, you're not going to sleep well, right? You're going to be stressed out. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be worried, right? Everything goes wrong when we are out of what? Out of balance. And balance is about everything, all the natural remedies, keeping them in balance. Not sleeping too much, right? Or not getting enough sleep. You follow what I'm saying? Not drinking any water or drinking too much. You know, everything could be in excess. So let's get things into balance. All right. So temperance, abstaining from practices that are harmful, and moderation in practices that are what? That are good. Now, they tell us, I have been told, that moderation in everything. And what does it imply? That implies that you can do everything, but just do it in moderation. Right? Now, is that a good principle? Anybody think that's a good thing, to have moderation in everything? So that means you can drink a little, you can smoke a little, right? You can, you know, just in moderation, right? And that's a deceptive ploy that has been utilized even in nutrition. You know, my colleagues would say, you know, moderation in everything, right? You know, so eat all the chips, you know, and all of that, but eat it in moderation. There's a problem with that because some of these foods are just like nicotine in terms of their ability to what? To addict you and hold you. So they're telling you have it in moderation, knowing that you can, right? So they keep you hooked, get you hooked, and we're going to talk about that also as we go along. All right, so which one? Which one would you choose? The one on the left, the apple, or the cake? Now, you can be honest, right? Oh. I know what I would see when we had these lunches downstairs. You set up a table. On one side, you have fruit salad and all that, right? On the other table, you have cakes and pies and you tell people you can only go down one aisle. Now my question is, how many people are going to go on the side with all the of the fruit? You're going to see, you know, a sprinkling, right? And a long line of people. Now there's a reason for that, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Yes. Oh, great. All right. So it's balance, all about balance. Now, your frontal lobes, right here, right? It's the center for long-term memory, right? Mental focus, the will, logical thinking, and morality, right? So all that happens where? Right up in here, right? And how we live influences the ability of this part of our brains. Now, our will is the power, the deciding power in the nature of man, right? It's the decision maker. I'm going to do what? Right? Oh, that's the will. Logical thinking, right? That's that important. Morality, mental focus, the will, right? The Bible says, you know, come now, let us what? Reason together. And where does reason take place? Right up here. So the focus of the enemy is to do what to this part of our brain? Shut it down, right? So all he focuses on is how to make you feel. It's all about feeling. Feeling what? Feeling good. And if I feel good, I must be good. That's his in. But is that true? No, no. We're not full and complete because of how we feel, but because of our connection with the God who is above all things, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that. So you've got all of these highly processed foods and tobacco and alcohol, not enough sunlight, too much of this, not enough of the other. All of this can be combined to call it intemperate living. Throws the body out of balance, right? Puts us in a place where we end up with all sorts of signs and symptoms that we are told are disease, that we need to kill, destroy, and take care of. Are you following me? Okay, but we know the real problem is what? Here. Real problem is not what we see and feel and experience. It is the lifestyle factors that are addressing it. So addictions are fundamental to this whole process of intemperance. So this is a definition that I received when I was in university. I want you to memorize wherever you can. This is a fundamental way of looking at addictions that is practical and useful. And what it says is an addiction is a relationship, okay? It is a relationship between a person, a process, or substance that gives the illusion that real needs are being met through a mood change. Now, that's a mouthful, but this is critical, right? It's a relationship, right? Now, what is well, we know what a person is, right? Right. What's a process? Gambling is a process, right? You know, something that we're doing over and over and over again. You follow what I'm saying? This is a process. And a substance, we know what a substance is, food, drugs, or what have you. So we have this illusion that real needs are being met. And it even happens in church, but we're not going to go there today. All right. Man, that guy really preached, man. I feel really great. God bless me, right? And it could be totally emotional. No frontal lobe activity where I have had that connection. But anyway, so what we want is real needs are being met, right? We don't want an illusion, right? We want to have real religion. Okay, pizza, you're on my mind. Hey, sounds like it's talking about a relationship, right? And it is a relationship. It's a relationship with what? Pizza. You're on my mind. I gotta have you. When I smell a hot slice, all I'm thinking about is that pizza. Very little holds my attention the way pizza holds my attention. I'm telling you, food talks, all food talks. Nothing holds my attention like pizza. So, here you go. There is God, and there's pizza. Now, which one holds your attention more? Now, you can reason that out, and you can answer that for yourself, right? Right? The guy's preaching up a storm, right? And you're thinking about pizza, right? Man, hurry up and in, man. I want to go home and I want to have my greens, right? The guy's supposed to be talking about Jesus, right? The centerpiece of our lives, the center of our joy, and all we're focusing on is what? Pizza. Sometimes what we have is not a relationship with God, we have a relationship with food, right? So that's an addiction. It gives an illusion that real needs are being met, but our real needs are being met in who? In a relationship with our God, right? All right. Anticipation, happiness, and fulfillment from food. There are days when I dream about food. I think back to the delicious meals I once had and long to feel the same sense of anticipation, happiness, and fulfillment they provide. Pizza, candy, bars, potato chips, smoothies, etc. Fulfillment, happiness. So food makes you happy? Food gives you fulfillment? Does it really give you fulfillment? What type of fulfillment? What's the extent of that fulfillment? How long does that fulfillment last? Is it a temporary thing? Or is it something so overwhelming that it carries you through the day that you have this peace that passes understanding? Is that true? Or food? Does food give you that sense of peace and consistency and enables you to live your life to the fullest? If it doesn't, then it truly does not what? Fulfill. No, it can provide nourishment, right? And it should give a sense of pleasure, but it is not the centerpiece of life. Yes?
You're talking about food, but there are other things which, like food, for argument's sake, computers, or for things that are actually on, which is playing games and stuff like that, or make jokes which are coming on, and we've got to be mindful of all of that because you can get addictive to this thing as well.
Perfectly, yes. So all you have to do is apply the other things, right? I'm just using food as an illustration, but that could be for anything. You follow me? So I'm just focusing on food. Okay, it adds color to the day. Yes? Comfort, stimulation, sedation, happiness, the chance to put fun in the day. You can create one more moment of good feelings, but it what? Never lasts. And that's the critical piece. It's something that does something, but it really doesn't last. So it picks you up, puts you down, then what do? You're gonna figure out how to go back and what? Get that feeling again. So you're always chasing what? This feeling. And then you end up taking more and more. In fact, one person said it's a gateway drug to alcohol and all the others. This highly processed food is like a gateway drug. Now, why is it a drug or drug-like? Because it's a highly concentrated extract from a plant source. And that's what cocaine and all those things are. They're highly concentrated extract that causes hyperstimulation in the brain areas that create this unnatural what? Unnatural high. And that's all Satan can give you. He can't give you that central, that frontal lobe effect, right? That peace, that assurance, right? All he can do is stimulate what? Your emotional brain, right? That's the best he can give you. And then he drops you after that because it's only short-lived. And so you get one thing and then you keep going, hoping what? That somewhere down the road, right, something's going to give you something that lasts, but it never lasts. All right? So body systems that enable us to eat just enough go out of control when we have high intakes of sugar, fat, salt. They call hyperpalatable foods. All right? So what happens, in this experiment, they gave rodents 10% sugar solution. They had their rat chow, they had water, but they put a sugar solution. And you know what those rats did? They drank until they died, right? So that's what happened. They drank themselves to death. Choosing nutrition deprivation rather than a healthy diet. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that what's happening today? People are doing the same thing that these rodents did because it overstimulates brain centers unnaturally. All right, so the mere touch of sugar can produce an endorphin rush, right? The opiates produced, what do? They relieve what? Pain. They what? Or stress. They calm us what? Down, right? But the effect is not long lasting, and that's the issue there. All right? So it's important. Now, some of what I'm sharing is not there, so you just take a note. So think about it, right? If you want to get people to a meeting, what's the quickest, what's the surest way to get them there? Food. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They'll come. They'll come. So you have this meeting, right? And you have this food to bring them there, right? 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 We need to come to a place where we have so much of the fullness of God, right? That the love of Christ, what? Compels them, right? So there's a higher motivation factor. And anyway, we're not going to go there. So this looks like a nerve cell, right? And the nerve cells, what? Communicate between each other through this junction, right? And so you've got chemicals that jump from one to the other, and that's all part of that communication, these nerve cells, right? So what happens is highly palatable food and addictive drugs, the same pathways in the brain system. So the neurons that respond to higher palatability fire more, creating an overpowering drive to consume these particular foods or addictions, whatever they may be. So the prefrontal cortex remembers the pleasurable highs, cues, you see it, you smell it, triggers surges in dopamine, and dopamine is a chemical that drives us to focus on one thing at the exclusion of others. So dopamine enables you to focus, right? That's what it's designed for. Now, this is important, right? Why? Because dopamine is responsible for keeping us focused on what's most important in life. Tending to a sick child, escaping from a burning building, or even a good old, this one thing I do, right? Keeps us focused. So what's happening is this vital brain chemical is being hijacked by hyperpalatable foods and other highly stimulating activity at the expense of health and our relationships. So we want to use our dopamine surges to keep us focused. You know when Paul and Silas were in prison? They were beaten and all of that, and at midnight they were what? They were singing and praising. They were highly what? Focused, right? And that focus was brought about because of a relationship with who? With God. They responded on the basis of faith. And what did Jesus say? Rejoice when you are what? Persecuted for righteousness, right? And they saw that as, this is how I respond, because my God suffered for me, right? The least I can do is stand up for him. And so this is what we want to do. So the food industry is the manipulator of the consumer's minds and desires, and this is what they say. This is their testimony. Now the question is, are you in charge, or is the food industry actually controlling you through the hyperpalatable items that they are producing? Food is escape more and more. So if I'm taking food as an escape, then is it really a solution? No, right? It's escape. It is indulging in a premium snack as a self-centered activity, a small moment of relaxation of me time. So this is what they're doing. The world around you is highly stressed, right? There's all sorts of stuff happening, and people are highly stressed, and they're trying to figure out, how do I what? How do I navigate? And the food industry says, hey, here you go. How good it is. But it never lasts. Breyers. Any of you like Breyers? Haagen-Dazs? What have you? The world's biggest ice cream maker. Unilever markets eating ice cream as a way to make ourselves happy. So this is their promotion. It's all about what? making us happy. And you see food in terms of relationships. But food is no, it's not the source of happiness. Yeah. Ice cream stimulates brain areas that respond when we're happy. Yeah? Isn't that something? So, liking of sweet is part of the basic biology of a child, more so than adults. So, when you give kids this hyperpalatable, highly sweetened foods, you are setting them up for lifelong of control by these hyperpalatable foods. So, it's not really the best thing, right? A happy meal, right? You see the language they use? It's all about this deception that you're going to be happy, you know, if you have this, right? And so we do it because we want them to be happy. So we have parties and we, you know, all this sweetened stuff, and we're thinking we're going to make them what? Happy. But what we're doing is creating a false sense of what? What constitutes happiness? You know, it's not a feeling, it's a relationship. And so Satan is using all of this to separate us from the true source of happiness, right? And that is in who? That is in Christ, right? Yes. All right, it's about manipulation. It's about control. And these are the people who do it. $280 billion a year. And everything packaged to attract us, to hold us from as young as we are until we die. And that's the role of the food industry. So what we want to do is encourage people to go back to the simple things that God has given us, right? The plants in nature. All right? Okay. Now, I thought I'd add this as the last thing for this segment. Complex carbohydrates are whole grains, beans, crackers, starchy vegetables, do not create blood sugar swings, which give way to cranky, aggressive, nervous, tired, and buggy thinking people. So those highly processed foods that taste great, they make us feel great at the moment, they turn us into aggressive, nervy, cranky, foggy thinking people as we get older. They do not satisfy endorphin needs, creating feelings of positive well-being and pain tolerance, and serotonin needs, which regulate mood, appetite, pain tolerance, food cravings, and sleep habits. And we talked all about that, didn't we not? We talked about serotonin, right? And tryptophan and melatonin and the foods that affect our mood, our sleep, our cravings. We are balanced out when we eat the whole plant foods. That's the basic, right? So one of the simplest things we can do to start out is go back to the garden. Eat most of your foods from what you can pick out of the garden. Does that make sense? That will calm your moods. That will boost your serotonin. That will boost your endorphins. It will excite neuronal activity in the brain, but not hypersensitive hyperstimulation, which creates addictions. And that's central to addictions, hyperstimulation of nerve centers in the brain. Okay, so our last segment is trust in divine power. And we're going to talk about faith. Faith, the role of faith in healing. Now, faith is important, very important. If the diagnosis, therapy, therapeutic interaction do not stimulate faith, hope, and belief of the patient, the chances of success are measurably diminished. So, if the patient doesn't believe, right, and then what's going to happen? A lot of the effects may never happen. In fact, most belief, both of the patient and the healthcare provider, and their trust in each other generates a significant portion of the therapeutic result. So the result has a lot to do with belief or faith, right? Does that make sense? So there was a study that looked at a number of different therapies, and the patients, this person used this theory, this person used that theory, this is looking at behavioral, psychological issues. And you know what they came to the conclusion was? The one thing that separated people who got well was the faith and belief that they had and the confidence they had in the healthcare provider. They believed that the person was what? Whatever they said was, and their bodies responded. Your body will respond if you have faith. And we're going to demonstrate that by looking at an experiment. Now, grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust all tend to do what? They break down what? Life's forces and invite decay and death. So, if I'm living under anxiety and stress and guilt, I am going to what? Experience death, decay. Many are lifelong invalids who might be well if they only thought so. Many die from disease, the cause of which is wholly imaginary. So if you believe it, your body responds. This is an amazing part of how we are designed. When we believe something, it affects every cell of our body. If you're hopeful, your cells come what? Come alive. If you're depressed and you give up, what happens to your body? It follows suit. And courage, faith, hope, sympathy, love, promote health, prolong life. Contented mind, cheerful spirit is health to the body and strength to the soul. A merry heart does good like a medicine. So we want to aspire in people hope, right? And confidence and trust. And so we must have that ourselves, right? If we come across like you don't know what we're saying, right? Or we're not confident in what we're sharing, then they're going to what? They're going to get that, right? And the best way to get confidence is to experience it yourself. So you need to apply all that we've been talking about. Does that make sense? Okay, I look at myself and I ask myself, how much activity I get? How much sleep am I getting? Am I getting rest? Am I drinking water? Am I doing all of these things, okay? Okay, let me start applying those things. And when you start applying those things, what happens to your health? Your health improves. You feel better. You feel inspired. And then you can go to someone and say, you know what? I was doing this. I was doing that. Then I made these changes, and my life has been radically changed. I got more energy. I got more sleep. And what do you think people will do? You think they'll follow suit? Yes, because your testimony has more to do with how someone will respond than anything else. It's your story, and so you want to have that right story, right? I just put a couple of definitions of just what is courage. Courage is mental and moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Do you have courage? Do you have mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty? Or what happens when danger, fear, or difficulty come? Do you fold up? Do you cower? Or do you rise to? Do you have the courage? Where would you get the courage to deal with difficult times? Like COVID-19 or what? You don't have a job, you don't have, you know what I mean? What do you do when everything seems like it's falling in around you? Do you have the courage? Can you rise to the occasion, right? And courage is one of those factors that promotes health and prolongs life. What about hope? To cherish or desire with anticipation. To cherish a desire with anticipation. You're looking forward with anticipation that this will what? This will happen. Isn't that something? I know you, but I have hope. I have hope that one day, right, this world will end as it is, right? And God will come through the clouds, and I will be resurrected to be with him forever. Do you have this hope that burns within your soul? hope in the coming of the Lord, that no matter what's happening around you, this hope bores, keeps you afloat, gives you peace when everybody else is looking like, hey, the world is falling apart, there is no hope. Yes, there is hope, right? Faith, confidence, or trust, personal things, sympathy, expresses pity or sorrow for someone else's misfortune. You feel with people. You follow what I'm saying? All of these are qualities that we should have. And of course, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. It never fails. So that's what we want. That's what we need. More than just a happy flight of feeling in the morning, in a moment. We want something that endures. So, Bruno Koffer, he was a researcher, and there was a patient that you don't have it. His cancer patient was highly susceptible to his faith in experimental drugs. So his enthusiasm was so intense that the tumor mass melted away like snowballs on a hot stove. In only a few days, they were half the size of the original size. So here's this fellow. He had this terminal cancer, right? And the doctor came to him and said, we have this amazing drug, right? And this drug, right, does amazing things. And this guy believed that it would happen. And in a few days, it melted away. Can you believe that? He believed, and it happened. Well, within 2 months of this recovery, there were reports that the drug was ineffective, were leaked to the press. And this fellow heard about it. And what do you think happened? The patient quickly began to revert to his former condition. Can you imagine? Just heard the news, and his health started to, cancer markers, everything started coming, the growth, everything started coming back, just because of his mind. So the physician noticed his, so he said, you know what? There's something new coming out that I think will overcome this. And soon as it's available, we're going to give it to you, right? So what happened? He was told the new version. So with much pomp and ceremony, saline water, so this is salt and water, was injected. So he had this placebo. It wasn't the real thing. It was just water and salt. And it was put into his veins, and the guy was saying, hey, this is wonderful. And the tumor mass melted, chest fluid vanished. He became ambulatory and went back to flying again. He was a pilot. So here he was. Everything vanished away. And what he had in his veins? Saline water, a little salt and water. And all the tumors vanished away. My question to you, why did the tumors vanish away? It was only salt and water. Why? He believed. And his belief was so strong that his body responded to his faith. Now that was a faith in what he thought, but it was only, could it be that a lot of people get well only because they believe the drug works and nothing to do with it but their faith? Faith. Don't underestimate the power of faith. And if you believe, you will be what? Healed, right? I'm not even talking about faith in God. I'm just talking about faith in the therapy. And so you must inspire faith and courage in people that you want to what? Help and support. And they must sense from you a what? I'm confident. I'm hopeful. Let's do this. And when they catch that, their immune system what? Comes in. Their immune system says, okay, let's go for it. And the white blood cells come out. And all the immune cells, 5 minutes to my next one, Oh, so we're way ahead. All right, I can slow down. We're gonna do the quiz. So you let me know 10 minutes when I got 10 minutes. But we've got a lot of time. Okay, let's slow down here. Tumor mass, melted, chest vanished, became ambulatory, went back to flying. Now, do you know something else happened? This is the sad part. 2 months later, nationwide test shows that the drug was worthless. Treatment of cancer. Within a few days, Mr. Wright was readmitted to the hospital, and in a few days later, he died. Can you believe this? He died within 7 days. He was perfectly healed, but he heard the news, and in a few days, he was dead. You know, there are a lot of people that do that. You go to the doctor, and the doctor gives you a terminal diagnosis, and he says, you've got, I don't know if anybody said this, but at least you heard it on TV, right? You got a couple of months to get your house in order. And you know what happens to a lot of those people? They go home and what? And die. But there are a few different ones. And you know what they say is, I'm not going to accept this. I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to do something about this. And you know what happened? They survive. The others die, succumb. It is important that we exercise what? Faith. Faith is critical to the healing process. You had a question?
I just want to comment on what you just said. You know, my late wife, you know, she, on the morning of November 21st, 2016, she wasn't doing too well, and we took her to the hospital. And, you know, what you just said, sometimes what people say and you hear what they say can make a difference in how you feel and what you think, you know? So we took her to the ER, and the doctor said, there's nothing we could do. He said, maybe a few hours or 24 hours or the next day. You know, and she heard him talking so negative, you know, and I looked at her, and she looked just so, you know, displaced in her thinking, in her eyes, and then her cousin came, and my late wife didn't want to talk to me because she knew that she was going. And when the doctor said a few hours to a day, she said, I agree. And within several hours, she said goodbye. You know, so, you know, the words truly impact upon how we feel. You know, we should not just believe anything people say, especially, you know, medical personnel, you know, not putting you down, no doc, but words just so powerfully impact upon our feeling and decisions. And, you know, when she heard him say, you know, a few hours to a day, she said, I agree. And she was gone in several hours, you know.
Okay.
It's sad.
Sure. Let me say a little bit more about that. Nobody knows when a person will die besides who? God. Now, usually our decisions are made based on averages. And so a scientist or researcher will look and say, 95% of people in your condition have died within a what? Period of time. So they give a period of time based on an average. You follow me? But what about the 5%? Nobody talks about the 5%. Everybody talks about what? Right? And you are an individual, right? So you can respond differently, and God may decide, I'm going to do what? I'm going to heal you. All the signs and everything says you won't survive, right? But our confidence is in who? In God. So we cast it all on Him, right? right? And God does some amazing things. So, you know, sometimes people will say something and say, you know what, this person has this, they have lung cancer, it's here, it's here. Is there anything we can do? And, you know, doctors have concluded, you know, there's nothing else we can do, you know, so palliative care or what have you. And so what do I say? What should I say? What should I say? You know, I'm sorry to hear this, and, you know, get your house in order. Well, no, that's not what I say. What I say is, you know, God is the ultimate decision as to when we leave this place. And it is our responsibility, I believe, to apply the laws of health that God has given us. And he has put promises, you know, in the Bible that if we do, he will do, right? He will bring about. So let's put all on the table, right? Let's do all we can to understand and apply God's principles and see if God will not bring you through. Let's have hope. Let's have optimism. Let's believe that God's got my case. And let me leave the end to God, but let me respond in faith. You know, and so what I would say is, you know, sometimes back 20 years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, man, that's a long time ago. When I would say, I'm dating myself, man. So they come despondent. You know what one of the things I would say to them, I would say, listen, you know, your responsibility, I believe, is to apply all that God has, all the principles that of health that God has provided for us, right? And we're going to help you in that process. We're going to help you walking and exercising and herbs and you know, water therapy. We're going to dunk you in a hot tub and raise your temperature. Then we're going to douse you down with cold water. You follow me? You're going to go in a contrast shower. You know, we're going to, you know, going through. This is all we're going to do, right? But the ultimate decision is in God's hand, right? So cast your care. Have trust that he will what? He will take care of you. Then what I want you to do is think of how you can help your roommate, right? And do what you can to reach out to help those around you. Many times we are ill because we're self-focused. So we need to reach out and stop focusing so much on ourselves. And as we reach out to help others, God brings healing to us. You know, so to try to inspire that faith, you know, put your case in his hand, and even to the point where we say, well, you know what, you know, maybe your own choices have brought you here, and so what you really need to do is confess and say, Lord, you know, I have not been following the principles of health. You know, forgive me. You know, give me a new heart and help me to apply these principles. And then rise up and walk with what? Hope in God. Trusting that he will do what he will do. And believe that. And when you have that faith and that hope in God, that God is going to do what he wants to happen. And it may not be in my best interest that I what? Survive. It may be best that I pass, but God knows. So I'm going to what? I'm going to do it all, and I'm going to leave it in his here, and I'm going to trust. And having that hopeful expectation that God will take your case is what we need to have. Now, what happens when we do that? Now, do you see all those? Can you see any of that? That's not on your handout. But these are all health conditions that were improved by placebo. In other words, these individuals were given a sugar pill. Oh, you do have it. Or some water or something, right? And all these conditions improved. A significant number of people with improved exercise tolerance, decreased fat in the blood, lower fasting blood sugar, duodenal ulcers, improving hypertension, all sorts of health conditions were radically improved, and it had nothing to do with the medication because it wasn't a real medication. They just believed, and they were healed. Isn't that amazing? The power of belief. So many of us are sick, and we're sick because of our imagination, our beliefs. Anxiety, angina, common cold, dyspnea, fever, premenstrual syndrome, pain, sleep disturbance, trauma, pain. Everything improved because they believed that what they took would make them well. So, what do we need to believe that will make us well? If we follow God's principles, right? That God will bring about what? So we have faith in what? God's principles. And so we apply them anticipating that healing will come because God says He will work through those simple means and bring about healing. Yes? Wonderful. Many effective drugs have power only a little greater than that of a placebo. Many a drug has been installed on the basis of clinical impression when the only power it had was that of a placebo. There were some studies done back in the past looking at antidepressant drugs. And if you had depression, there are drugs that will be prescribed you. And what had happened was, this illustrates an important point that I think we need to, yes? Huh. Okay. Let me finish what I'm saying. It so happens that the drug industry was allowed to publish only the studies that showed that antidepressants work. So let's say 20 studies were performed, and of those 20 studies, 9 of them showed that drug therapy worked, but the other 11 didn't show any benefit. So if you got equal quantities of studies showing something worked and something didn't work, then what is the conclusion what's likely the conclusion? That this is probably not what? Probably not, just as many show it don't work as it worked, so that's probably not something we should do. So what they did is they were allowed to only publish the studies that actually worked. Is that legal? Is that good approach, therapy, good way of doing things? The FDA knew this and allowed them to what? Not publish the ones that didn't work. So this group got an injunction to get all the studies. And so when they put them all together, you know what the effect was? No effect. So if you took the drug or you didn't take the drug, you were as likely to recover just by, so I said that to say this conclusion here. Many times it could be just the placebo effect that's really at bay here. Okay, so let's get to the real thing. So now, since courage, faith, and sympathy and love promotes health and prolonged life, how can we respond to the stresses of everyday life so that we will have positive moods and not negative? Because if I have a lot of negative moods and attitudes, can I truly get healthy? No, right? Because all of those things what? React upon us. So how do I face the stresses of life and experience what? Hope, courage, right? Love, sympathy, those qualities versus grief, guilt, discontent, remorse, and distrust. So let's talk a little bit about stress as we end. Now, stress is what? The body's response to any demand placed upon it. Stress is not your neighbor, it's not your husband, it's not your wife. It is your response to them. They may be a stressor, but they are not stress. Stress is your response, how your body responds. So, there is a Chinese compound word for stress that means danger or what? Opportunity. So this is a key point, right? Whatever you're dealing with could evoke what? Danger or opportunity. The question is, am I looking at it from a standpoint of danger or a standpoint of opportunity? Because how we view has a lot to do with how our body what? Reacts. So our reactions are based on our perceptions. Yes? And so that's what we're going to look at. So the pressures of life. All right, so let's go through. So you got activating events. You got the hassles, you got the work, you got the relationships, you got the lifestyle, physical dangers, and then you got how your body responds to it, physically, emotionally, behaviorally, spiritually. You're responding to what? The stresses, that are the pressures of life that are coming against you. So stress management is about responding to them to maximize what? Prevent or minimize harmful, create or maximize opportunities, right? So how do we respond to what I'm dealing with in life so opportunities are created rather than dangers where I am? So human reaction to threatening stresses. So this is what happens. Your heart rate goes up. Your blood thickens. Respiration, breathing keeps. Stress hormones go up. Your muscle function go up. Your senses are keener. Your digestive process stops. All of these things happen to help you to deal with what? An emergency situation. Now, is it a real one or an imaginary? If it's an imaginary and it's not a real problem, you're still going to experience that, right? You're mad and upset every time you come in a room where you see somebody, right? Right? Your pressure goes up, right? Your blood, all of this is happening, what? Preparing you for fight and flight, and it's just this person. Are you with me? This is not a good thing, right? Or maybe you go to another church, or maybe you sit on another pew in another area, or you don't come back at all, right? And every time you think about them, what happens to your pressure? Your pressure goes up, you know, you're breathing, you're gritting your teeth and all of this. And what is happening to you on the inside? You're breaking down, right? You're falling apart because of your belief. So, it can be useful, it can be adaptive, it can be functional. Fight or flight. What's the real danger? Acute, if we're dealing with it right. Chronic, unrelieved stress. This is what kills us, okay? We stew in our juices, right? So we have these arguments and these things that go on for years, right? And we earn them like they're a badge of something we should wear. But what it's doing is wearing us down. It's destroying us, all right? We need to let it go. Okay, and so these are the problems that happen. So, muscular tension to prepare for fight or flight, short-term, faster reaction. So I can react fast, right? I'm running from a lion, a tiger, there's a car, and have you heard of women who, lift up this car to save a child? You know, the body just prepares. But if it's long-term, it leads to headaches and backaches. So that's where I'm getting my headaches and my backaches from, because I'm constantly stressed. Another, increased adrenaline secretions, and that's to mobilize resources, so you get all the blood and everything there. But what happens? Irritability, anxiety disorders, and insomnia are happening because my stress hormones are always up. So I'm not sleeping, I'm anxious, I'm worried, and I can't sleep because what? My stress hormones are elevated. So I need to burn them off. You follow me? I need to change my perception, so how I look. Blood vessels constrict, blood pressure rises, speed circulation, you end up with hypertension. Heart rate and force increases speed circulation, heart pounding, wear and tear, leading to heart disease. Blood clots quicker, minimize cuts, and bleeding out if you get an injury. Helps stop bleeding if injury. Leads to heart attacks and strokes long term. Blood vessels constrict, blood shifts to the larger muscles. You end up with migraine headaches. Sugar, rapid energy, diabetes, elevated cholesterol. So a lot of the health issues we have are related to the stress response. And I am in a fight or flight mood. Stress is your response to the stresses of life. So everything happens because of a viewpoint, a belief, interpretation. You interpret it before it actually happens. All right, so stress arises when we interpret our circumstances and interaction with people. Okay, this is an example here. It's a roller coaster, right? One person is excited and happy, and the other person is what? Hanging on for dear life. Is it any difference? No. What is different? Perception, belief. So we need to change our perceptions, our belief. Attitude determines whether it's experienced as pleasurable or unpleasant. So it's about your interpretation. You see an event, you think, bring some thoughts, and based on your thoughts, you respond. Okay? So I just want to talk a little bit about a Christian viewpoint, as I am. Paul says we are hard-pressed on what? Every side, yet not what? Crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed, always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Jesus, that the life also of Jesus might be made manifest in our body. So the purpose of stress, from a Christian perspective, is to bring us to a place of what? Where we can experience the dying Lord, die to ourselves, and that we may rise and walk in newness of life. So the purpose of stress is to bring us to a place of peace. So if I view it as an avenue to make me more like Christ, right? Then my interpretation is different and my response becomes different. Does that make sense? Most gladly will I therefore rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. And that's what Paul said. All right? So, it's all for our good. All things are for your good, that the abundance grace through the thanksgiving of many will result in the glory of God. What happens? The outward man perishes. The inward man is what? Renewed day by day. So, my attitude is one of, okay, whatever is happening to me, the purpose is that the outward man perish, my true self, right, apart from Christ. Anxious, fearful, impatient, you follow me? Unkind, unloving, right? Those are the characteristics that are part of human nature. But God wants us to take on the divine nature. So we have love and peace and gentleness and long-suffering. The only way that can happen is so that we ourselves are confronted with our reality and allow God to do what? Make a transformation. So it's all for our good. The trying of our faith worketh patience, but let patience have our perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. It's all about helping people to change their perspective about life. If I view something, if I view all these things I'm going through as the worst thing in the world, and that my life will be miserable because of it, I will never get healed. I will never experience healing. But if I view it as a part of a tapestry, a plan that God has for me, that I can be what? More like Him. If I can change my view, then I can change what? How my body responds. So I want to help people. So it's that mental, spiritual part, right? And that faith part, that also needs to be challenged. I don't have a job, right? I don't have this, right? So how do we respond to that? You know, God works in and through all things, and a part of his plan. You know, I'm here, not perchance. I believe God has directed, and all of this is a part of this plan. We don't all see it, but by faith, we believe that God is definitely working through this. And we use the promises to inspire them. For our light affliction is but for a moment, but it worketh a far more eternal weight of glory. While we look not at the things that are seen, but the things which are what? So our mind is in what? Is in heaven. We realize that God sits above, and God is orchestrating and controlling the affairs of life. Let us trust him. Let us cast our cares upon him. So, be anxious in everything, give thanks, because God is working. So, a part of it, of the healing process is inspiring faith and trust in God, that God is working in through. Does this make sense? This is important, because half the time, people are going to be worried and stressed out because of what? Because of their beliefs. And they believe that all these circumstances and things are destroying their lives. And then their hormones respond to their belief. You follow me? And their health is compromised. So we must challenge them to look beyond what they see. Are you with me? And to realize that there's something else going on behind the scenes. And they can have trust in God. You can see why New Start, which is nutrition, right? Largely whole plant food, exercise, moderate exercise, you know, at least 60 minutes. Nutrition, exercise, water. We didn't talk a lot about it internally. We talked about it, hydrotherapy, but at least 5 cups of water a day, you know, nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight. We talk about the value of sunlight and air, right? And temperance or balance, and trust in divine power. So we have to have that faith. If we have that faith as a part of these natural remedies, we will not experience the true healing. Because I can try, I can do the water, I can do all of that, but I'm still worried, you know? I'm still, you know, everything's going wrong. What do I do? It's COVID. You follow what I'm saying? And then our body's responding like we're in some traumatic thing, right? The hormones are going up, right? And we're not going to experience healing. But once we step back and say, trust in God, God's got it in control. And we cast our cares upon him. And we have that peace that passes understanding. Now we have it all together. We have the nutrition, the exercise, and the water, the sunlight, the air, and we have trust in God. All of that makes the difference. I have learned to be content. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fail, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and cattle in the stall, that sounds like everything is going wrong for this person. You follow me? What is their response? Even though it looks like nothing is working, yet I will rejoice and be joyful in the Lord. I will be joyful in God who helps me. Above the distractions of earth, God sits enthroned. All things are open for his feet, and from its ground and country. Okay, we're going to end with this. So, there are 3 points. You want to get these 3 points. Number 1, thank God for the irritations. No matter what, there is a purpose. So you want to inspire in people a what? A confidence that what? It's going to work out. God is working in and through this. So, first thing, thank God for the irritations no matter what. You need to inspire faith in people that they will thank God for their irritations. That's a big challenge. But until they go there, they will not experience faith, you know, godly faith, right? They're not going to get, because that's the foundation of the Word of God, right? All things are for your sake. It's either to bring you to Christ, right? You follow what I'm saying? Or get you back on the road to Christ. He's trying to get your attention. Number 1, thank God for the irritations. Identify possible cause that I in any way cause it. So it's not just thank you, you know, the people are mad and this is that. Did I do anything that contributes to this reality? You follow me? And if it is, you need to do what? You need to correct it, right? You blow up and you say things you shouldn't say, right? And that is a revelation that what? You need what? You need power outside of yourself to be able to respond as Christ would respond. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. You're not doing these other things, so you're on edge. You follow what I'm saying? So there's something imbalance in your life, right? So what is it? Number 2. And number 3, determine the ultimate objective. What qualities does God want to develop in me? So how do I grow through this experience? Does that make sense? Every experience is an avenue for growth that God wants you to grow. Whether it appears pleasant or unpleasant, God is working in and through that to bring healing for you. I hope this has been useful. We're going to have a quiz, and we're going to share some other information. But let me just pray at this time. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity of being together and these 8 sessions. I pray that they have been a benefit to those that have come, and I just ask that you will guide them and direct them and make them ministers that can share this message of health and hope and healing. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Okay, we're going to have the quiz. But before we have the quiz, I just want to say something about our next week. Next week is graduation. It is what? Graduation. And graduation will start at 10 o'clock. It will be here. So for all of you who are finishing your all your test score results, after we do the final one, you want to put that all into your master form. Make sure you hand that in. Those that are here, you should have your list with you. And if you're going to be here, make sure it's noted that you're going to be here in person. Because if you're not here in person, we will email your certificate. But for those that are going to be here in person, make sure they note that you're going to be here in person. Okay, so get that information to Roseanne, Sister Roseanne, and she has been emailing that information, so you know where to get that. For those of you who cannot be here, you will get your certificate emailed to you, but do tune in next week at 10 o'clock. Beg your pardon? Yes. Sure. So next week, of course, for those of you who are online, tune in at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock will be the graduation. It'll be a charge. It'll be, you'll get your certificates. You'll get a nice picture. Everybody is here, and we'll have some nice refreshments out in the parking lot. So definitely be here. It's going to be a great time. Maybe we'll have someone who will sing. Yeah, we have some singing and testimony. You want to share something? Sure. We're going to have a good time next week. Okay. Now, another program like this will start on April the 11th. We're going to get all those details to you. Roseanne will be able to send out the information, and we're going to get it to you. Everyone who's coming next week, you're tuning in, you'll get all that information. It's going to be at the Devonshire Church of Love. It's going to be from 8:30 to 10:30. It's going to go for 8 weeks, just like we did here. It's going to be 8 consecutive weeks. So for those of you who came in late, or you have other friends that you would like to be a part of the next run around, let them know about that so that they can partake of that. Okay? So that's what's going to happen. We'll give the details, their online information as well as in person. So that's going to happen at Devonshire. And the last announcement is I'm going to be conducting a group-style lifestyle intervention program for people who have health issues. Whether you're diabetic, hypertensive, you name it, whatever issues you may have, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're not happy with your progress, you're taking tons of drugs and nothing seeming to work, we're going to try as best we can to do some of those things right here. It's going to be Southampton downstairs, and that more than likely will be from 6 to 8 in the evening, okay? I don't understand your sign language. Someone is trying to communicate. Yes, and I will give the details. More than likely, that will be the second week in April, okay? But I will get the details regarding that, the cost and all of that particular lifestyle intervention program. There will be assessment ahead of time, intervention, lifestyle therapy, you know, making it really practical so that people can see some amazing transformation. There may be some, you know, some cleansing as a part of the program and all of that, but we'll go through all of that. And so right now, yes.
So just keep, they may not impact us as a church, but as of March the 21st, which is today, government member, in terms of the returning back to what they had in place in December,
Yes.
which influences the amount of people that you can have at a particular gathering outside of a regular church service. So I don't know if that may impact us, but if it doesn't, then hey, I believe we'll continue to, you know, maximize our numbers as you continue to minister to us in this manner.
Sure.
And I don't know if that may influence our graduation, but if it's not a church service, we may have to split it up in two. But it may not impact us. So if it doesn't, hey, I look forward to participating in the graduation. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I mean, the reality, I mean, just saying that, let's say a church service and we're separated in a certain way. We're having something in a church. We're still keeping the same distances and all that. It wouldn't make any real difference. Yes?
It'll
because
be a little bit difference. It's going from the 25% capacity down to 20%. That's why it's very important that everyone who wants to come notes it on their paper, the score sheet, whether they're going to be present. If I remember correctly, I think we were allowed up to 89 persons. That was 20%. So we can't go past that number. And
opportunity to say, I just wanted to take this, opportunity to say what a great presentation that was. They all are, amen. I haven't gotten the chance before, so maybe it's good that I come at the end. And I just want to say, Dr. Gibbons, you're my husband, but I can say, because you're my husband, that there's even more value placed on my comment here, that you do a good job presenting. Amen. Okay, let's go through the quiz in the interest of time. So we've been talking about restorative sleep, restoring sleep. Wonderful rest. Okay, number 1. Chronic sleep deprivation can hasten the onset of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancer, memory loss, immune dysfunction, and can worsen all of these conditions. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 2, sleep before midnight is twice as beneficial as sleep after midnight. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 3, melatonin does not regulate appetite, sleep, and/or moods. Is that true or false? False. Melatonin does regulate appetite, sleep, and/or moods. Number 4, barley, oats, corn, wheat, and pistachios are some of the top food sources of melatonin. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 5, regularity in bedtime routine, sleeping, waking, and meal times will not improve sleep habits. Is that true or false? That is false, because those routines will improve sleep. Number 6, to help improve sleep problems, sleep in a cool, dark, comfortable, tidy, quiet room with circulating fresh air. Is that true or false? True. Number 7, temperate living includes abstaining from practices that are harmful and being moderate in those behaviors that promote health and healing. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 8, typical fast foods such as pizza, candy bars, cookies, and potato chips may provide comfort, stimulation, and, in quotes, fulfillment, but it never, that's fulfillment, never lasts. Is that true or false? Okay, yes. That fulfillment is temporary. Number 9, stressed, depressed, or tired people tend to grab fatty or sweet foods, which end up increasing stress, fatigue, and depression. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 10, food is a good tool for providing a way of escape, excitement, and relaxation from the stressors of daily life. That is false. Why? That spells addiction. Addiction is never helpful. Number 11, complex carbohydrates are also linked to increased serotonin levels, which help to regulate mood, appetite, pain tolerance, food cravings, and sleep habits. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 12, the opioids produced by eating high sugar, high fat foods can relieve pain and stress and calm us down, but the effect is not long lasting. Is that true or false? Only temporary. That's true. Number 13, the beliefs of the patient and the healthcare provider and their trust in each other and the process generate a high portion of the therapeutic results. Is that true or false? That is true. That's a measure of faith there as well. Number 14, grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust do not tend to break down the life forces and to invite decay and death. Is that true or false? That is false. Grief, anxiety, and discontent does they do tend to break down the life forces. Number 15, many effective, quote unquote, many effective drugs have power only a little greater than a placebo. Is that true or false? Okay, that's true. Sometimes the belief system sort of governs what happens. Number 16, stress is the body's response to any demand made upon it, i.e., your response to the stressors in your life. Is that true or false? That is true. Number 17, if you can change your interpretation of an event, you can change the impact the event will have on you. Is that true or false? Oh boy, so hard to put that into practice. True. Number 18, suffering ceases to be suffering in some way at the moment it finds a meaning. True or false? True. What there's a saying, there's no testimony without a test. Okay, that reminds me of that. Number 19, which is the last one. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Of course, this is God's word to us. May God bless us as we continue to move along the pathway to health, and to have a very pleasant week. Dr. Gibbons, you may come back. God bless you.
Okay, thank you all. Looking forward to seeing you. Hand in your reports. Let us know whether you're coming, so we'll know how to, get everything together. And have a great week. Give thanks in all things. Put New Start into practice. Share it with others. Take care. Bye-bye.